about to get started. My name is Claire Paget. I'm the FES Program Specialist, and this is Alicia Wilson. She's the McKay Program Specialist. And we're here to cover some of the reporting requirements for our Florida School Choice Scholarship programs. We have a lot to cover, so I'd like to hold questions until the end of the presentation, just so we can make sure we have enough time. I did provide a QR code, and some of y'all may have it. We kind of ran out. We didn't know we would need so many. And so you can scan that code and it'll send you straight to my email. So if there's a question we don't get to or one that may be lengthy, feel free to just scan that and send me an email, and it also has my email on there so you can write it down. So first, here's a list of our Florida School Choice Scholarship programs. We have the Florida Tax Credit Scholarship, the Opportunity Scholarship, and the Reading Scholarship. The ones that we're going to cover today are the Hope Scholarship, the John McKay Scholarship, and the Family Empowerment Scholarship. And then we're also going to talk about House Bill 7045 and how those are going to be affected, or how that bill is going to be affecting these scholarships. The Hope Scholarship Program. So a student is eligible under the Hope Scholarship Program if they are enrolled in a K-12 public school and have been subjected to a qualifying incident. This allows for a student to transfer to another public school with capacity, to another public school with capacity, or a private school. And there is a $750 transportation scholarship available to students who select a public school that is not within their home district. So just some examples of a qualifying incident. Oh, I'm sorry. Got to get used to that. So examples of a qualifying incident are battery, harassment, hazing, bullying, just to kind of name a few. And the incident must take place at a public school or a school-related sponsored program or activity. For Hope Scholarship student reporting, you'll use the data element name and data element number that's listed on the screen, Educational School Choice, and 116207. Transfer code U is for a student transferring to another public school that is outside of the district than the one they were assigned to under the Hope Scholarship Program. And Florida statute now requires that we do an annual evaluation of the program to review the school bullying prevention, student conduct, and the climate for a public school where 10 or more students transfer to another public school or private school. We haven't actually met that threshold yet so far, so just kind of keep that in mind. We've only done parent satisfaction. So this is really, Hope was short. So we're going to move on to McKay, and I'll come back and ask if you guys have any questions on Hope. So the McKay Scholarship. So students are eligible under the McKay Scholarship if they have a current IEP or 504 plan. They are between the ages of 5 and 22 before September 1 or by September 1, and have attended a Florida public school during surveys 2 and 3 in the prior year. The prior attendance can be waived for McKay if you're a pre-K student receiving services through the district with an IEP, or you're reported and were reported in the prior year surveys 2 and 3. Or if you're a military family relocating to Florida, a foster student, or participated in VPK SIS program. So our office provides districts with downloadable Excel files, or you'll hear me refer to this as the McKay student list exported, because that's basically what it is. This contains a list of the McKay students that are participating in that current school year. And some of the things that it identifies is the private school, the number of payments the students received, the eligibility status, the year they entered the program, and parent guardian information, and then the current status, whether they're enrolled, unregistered, they're in a transfer to status, or withdrawn status. Again, you'll hear me refer to this list if you've ever spoken to me as your McKay student list exported. This list is an awesome tool that districts can use when reporting McKay students in the surveys 2 and 3. We also encourage you to use your McKay payment files, but again, this list is also helpful as it'll show the payment information, and this file is live where your payment files are static. So if a student is paid in a supplemental payment, this would reflect on your McKay student list export. So McKay survey prepayment files, again, we provide these to the districts each year, 4 times a year. And we provide that, we request that each district put in the public school information, whether the student has an entry date or a withdrawal date into the public school. Again, we don't want to confuse these with payment files because they can be easily confused with those. The survey files include students who are going to be potentially paid in McKay. So just because they are on a survey file does not mean that they will get paid. There are other things on our end that could cause a student not to get paid that private schools and parents have to do. Again, these are sent 4 times a year. Your Survey A responses will reflect on your September payment file. Your Survey B responses will reflect on your November, Survey C on your February, and Survey D on your April payment file. So McKay survey files, we usually send those through the mainframe using this data set that's listed. And once the district reviews the file and they enter the proper dates and upload the file, you'll use the return batch data set name. Districts must only enter an entry or withdrawal date. Any changes on any other portion of the file will reject, cause it to reject when you upload it. Again, you'll use an entry date if the student is currently enrolled in a public school within your district. If the student is not enrolled in your public school, you will enter a withdrawal date for that student. And then let's say the student's not in your district at all, you can't find that student. You'll enter all 9s for that student in the entry and the withdrawal date columns. This is most common with military families. And we also, so in the McKay format, there's a data element named military family students to assist districts in identifying those kids. McKay payment files. So these are the data set names for the McKay payment files. You'll notice that for September and November, those will correspond with surveys 2, and your February and April payment files will correspond to survey 3. So when reporting students in those surveys, just make sure to look at those September and November payment files for survey 2 and February and April for survey 3. Reporting McKay students for surveys 2 and 3. First, district number, current enrollment. You'll use the reporting district number. For district number, current instruction or services, you'll use the reporting district number. And then the school number, current enrollment is 3518 for McKay. For student course schedule, school number, current enrollment, you'll use 3518. School number, current instruction, it will always be the private school. And again, this will be listed on the McKay student list. The course number is all 2s. And for FEF program numbers, you're going to use 111 through 113 for basic program ESC services and 254, 255 for ESC. You'll probably notice something is left off. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit later. So this, just some things to think about when reporting for McKay. Report all students that are on your payment files, even if the student is not in membership during that week. If you have a student that shows up on one payment file and not the other, you'll still want to report that student for that FTE survey period. If the student is in public school during survey week, you'll report that student as you would any other public school student. And then districts should enter the appropriate FTE for each student appearing on their payment file. You don't want to report any FTE greater than what the scholarship is based on. So DOE provides districts with 2 reports that are there to assist districts in reporting for McKay students. These are the F71138 and the F71139 report. The F71138 report will list students who are on a McKay payment file but do not have a matching student course record and no FTE was reported. In most cases, if a student is on this report with no matching student course record, they're either listed here because A, they were not reported by the district and should be unless they are a public school, unless you're reporting that kid as a public school student, or the district is reporting the student differently than what was on the McKay payment files. Again, the McKay payment files are static reports. So if a change has been made between a payment file being released and you reporting a student and you know you're reporting that student correctly, just keep reporting that student in that way. Just be aware that that student is going to continue to show up on that 3.8 report because that change was made after the payment file. We had a lot of issues with students, not matching when districts report them because we use student IDs. And now that student IDs have been removed from these files, FLE, and we use FLE IDs, we're hoping this eliminates some of this. And I believe last year was the first year we used FLE IDs solely. So hopefully that, took down some of that. But just keep in mind that a lot of the times the students will show up on these files because maybe the FLE IDs do not match that you're reporting. If you have a problem with an FLE ID not matching, certainly reach out to one of us. The F71139 report. So this lists McKay students who have a student course record but are not on a McKay payment file. Districts should only report students who are paid in McKay. And the only time that a student may be paid in McKay but not on a payment file is if they are retroactively paid in a supplemental payment. Sometimes we're required to run supplemental payments, and so we don't send out payment files for those. However, you can view your McKay student list export, and there will be columns for each payment period that you can review to see if a student was retroactively paid. And know if a student was paid in a supplemental payment. And if you are reporting that student appropriately, again, keep in mind that the student may not fall off of your 3.9 report, but you are reporting that student appropriately. These reports do not affect districts reporting. It just is there to assist districts in reporting. So that is kind of it for McKay. And again, I will answer any questions that you have on McKay once we get through, because the next little bit is going to be kind of lengthy. So just bear with me. So as you may or may not know, House Bill 74 has declared some changes for the McKay program. Beginning in the 22-23 school year, McKay Scholarship will be transitioned under the Family Empowerment Scholarship Program. And we will be sending out additional guidance through the course of the 21-22 school year, other than, what we already have. The Gardner Scholarship Program. So House Bill 7045 repealed the Gardner Scholarship Program effective July 1, 2021, tomorrow. So the Gardner Scholarship will now be, students under the Gardner Scholarship will now be eligible under Family Empowerment Scholarship Program. And we're going to discuss these changes in the upcoming slides. Under House Bill 7045, the Family Empowerment Scholarship expands eligibility to include students who qualify based on household income levels, which we'll be referring to these students as FES for educational options, as well as students who qualify based on a diagnosis or an IEP. And those students we'll be referring to as FES for students with unique abilities. The expansion includes the removal of the prior year in the public school requirement. It expands the authorized use of the scholarship funds and provides for a transportation scholarship for students who enroll in a public school other than the one that they're assigned to under the program. Eligibility under FES educational options. A student must be 5 by September 1, and household income level at 375% of the federal poverty level, or is a sibling of an eligible student or military dependent. Eligibility under FES students with unique abilities. A student must be 3 or 4 by September 1, or eligible to enroll in a K through 12 school. Has a qualifying diagnosis from a physician or psychologist, or it has an IEP. In addition, siblings may be eligible for income-based scholarships if they have siblings that are on the FES unique abilities. Authorized use of funds for FES. So for educational options, funds may be used for tuition and fees at an eligible private school, or a student can receive a $750 transportation scholarship to a public school. For honor students with unique abilities, funds may be used for tuition and fees at a private school or enrollment in home education program. Instructional materials, digital devices, assistive technology and curriculum, and specialized services and therapies. We will still continue to provide districts with an FES student list or a district downloadable Excel file of all the FES students in their districts. And some of the things that will identify is the current private school that the student is attending, if that's applicable, and then the eligibility status of the student. The FES student list can be accessed the same way as you do now from your district homepage, and it's located on the left-hand menu, just kind of shown on the screen. And then from there, you'll select an FES student list export link. And some of y'all may have the question, we do not have 21, 22 students for the next school year listed yet currently. So that FES student list that is probably currently showing for you is last year's students. FES survey prepayment files. There's not really any changes to this process. We'll still continue to provide districts with FES prepayment files, survey H through K, and require that those files be returned with the public school enrollment and withdrawal dates. And then here you can see the survey that corresponds to that payment file. Survey H responses will reflect on the September, survey I on November, survey J for February, survey K responses on the April payment file. Your FES prepayment files will still be provided through the school choice website. On the day that the survey opens, a link will be made available on your district homepage. And that link will say FES EPS file ready to be created. From there, the district will select the download link and we'll have the option to open or save the file. And then the file will be formatted in the text file as we currently are providing it. This is the message that districts will see when it generates successfully. And districts must enter only an entry or withdrawal date. An entry date should be used for a student who's currently enrolled in your district in a public school, and you'll enter the student's most recent enrollment date for those students. If a student is, a withdrawal date should be used if the student is not currently enrolled in your district. And then you'll enter that student's withdrawal date. Same as McKay, if a student is not in your district, you will report all 9s for that student in the entry and withdrawal date columns. So if you don't have a student that you either cannot find or has never entered your district, you would enter all 9s in both those columns. Districts will go to the same location that you download the file to upload your file. We ask that you keep the file name the same. The format will also need to remain as well for a successful upload. Districts will receive a notification here if their upload was successful. And then once the file actually processes on our end, the district will receive an email notification that either your file processed with no issues or your file processed with errors. If you receive an email with that your file processed with errors, you can go to the same location and a download errors link will be made available for you to review those errors. If you happen to not receive an email at all, it's possible that the format was changed on the file or there was some sort of formatting error and the file was actually never processed on DOE. So you should, when you submit your FES prepayment file, you should receive an email if you're the person who, for the email that you provided. So once the survey closes, our office will load the files that the districts, send in, and what you can review your responses on your FES EPS student list. So the EPS student list is located also on the left-hand menu. And this will display the district responses to the students the district entered an entry date for in the most recent prepayment verification file. If a student was marked enrolled in public school in error, the district can remove the EPS flag. And once this change is made, the list will reflect the change, but you can always go back and restore the flag if necessary. And again, this will only list for the current prepayment that we are in. So once we start a new prepayment, that these students will be will fall off. Districts will continue to be provided with FES payment files that will be used for FTE reporting. And you can select from the FES student list on the left-hand side to get to these files, which you can see on the screen. So when you go to your FES student list, payment files will be made available. We don't have any that are available right now, so I wasn't able to get you a better picture of that. But under your FES student list, you'll see a link for an FES Survey 2 payment file and an FES Survey 3 payment file. Survey 2 payment file will contain students that were paid in either pay period 1 or pay period 2, and again should be used for survey 2 reporting. Survey 3 payment file will contain students who were paid in either pay period 3 or pay period 4, and that will remain available until that survey 3 window closes. For FES, the FES reporting format, so for district number current enrollment, you'll use the district number or the reporting district number. District number current instruction and service, you'll use the reporting district number, and the FES school number for current enrollment is 3,900. Course schedule. So for school number current enrollment, the school number will continue to be 3,900. The school number current instruction, the private school number will be used if the student is enrolled in a private school. And then we'll be providing districts with a 4-digit code that will be used if the student is in a home education program under FES or is a student that is 3 and 4 years old. So we have not, that code has not been finalized, but it will be a 4-digit code, and we'll be sending that out to districts as soon as that's been finalized. The course number is all 2s, and for FEF program number, so you will use 111 through 113 for basic program with ESC services, 254, 255 for ESC, and then 101, 103 for basic program. So that's kind of one of the changes that's been made. So we've used 101, 103, but we're incorporating now 111, 113. If a student is not in membership during survey week, you must report that student if they are on the survey payment file. So we are going to be telling districts on those payment files exactly who needs to be paid. If a student shows up in one survey payment but not the second, you must report that student still for that survey period. If the student is in public school during survey week, you'll want to report that student as any normal public school student. And so just a few reporting reminders for McKay and FES. The student file will contain the school number of current instruction and the appropriate FEFP program number for each student, just the way we've always provided districts. And that should be the one that you report in the student course schedule. Again, districts must report these students. So if they are on a payment file and have been paid in either McKay or FES, please report those students. Additional reporting guidance and formats are available in the FTE general instructions, the appendix C and D, and the technical assistance documents that are provided to districts. And some of these will be updated based on some of the changes with House Bill 7045. So we'll get those out to you. And another reminder of district responsibilities. Districts are to continue to inform all households within the district receiving free or reduced price meals under the National School Lunch Act of their eligibility to apply for FES by January 1 of each year. And then as was required with Gardner, school districts must provide an evaluation or reevaluation for FES students who do not have an IEP or who seeks reevaluation of an existing IEP. And then McKay districts are required to notify students who qualify for FES based on an IEP or diagnosis of their educational options, including the option to attend another public school within the school district. The school district is responsible for transportation, and districts will be required to report these students using an educational transfer code. A transfer code will be provided to districts to use for those students that are transferring from another public school within or outside of their district. And we'll update you guys on a transfer code as soon as we have it. It will just be one letter, but it's not been finalized yet, so I'm not able to share that. The data element name and data element number is listed on the slide. And we actually got through that a lot quicker than I thought, so I'm glad because I hope we have room for questions. I am going to leave our contact information up on the slide. Again, you can email me or Alicia with any questions that you have, if we're not able to get to it, or, if you just have any questions, feel free to write down our information. And the QR code is still, some people received one and some people did not. We have a QR code that you can scan and it'll link you straight to my email. So does anybody have any questions? Yes.
With the McKay,
Yes.
but why aren't regular 101, 2, and 3?
So the current House Bill 7045 did not indicate 504 students in the bill. So unless there are changes, I'm sorry.
That was an issue too, or not?
So, and I'm sorry, make sure I'm saying this right, because I don't want to get confused. Okay, so the funding for McKay will be different this year. So students who are a 504, 251, 252, and 253 will be funded as the same amount. So that is why we're going to indicate to districts what they should report for those students because of their funding being different. I'm not sure on what the funding amounts are. We haven't finalized that, gotten the funding amounts yet. Now, I believe if a student has a higher amount in the previous year and they were a current student, they will receive that higher amount. But for like 504 students, obviously if they're getting funded at a 253 level, their funding amount would be higher. So they're kind of racking up this year. Now for next year, because the McKay Scholarship will be under the Family Empowerment Scholarship, House Bill 7045 did not indicate 504 students. So you will have to have a diagnosis or an IEP to be eligible under FES. Unless they have a IEP or a diagnosis. So yeah, unless we have changes in, the next session for the 22-23 school year. Yeah. Any other questions? I know. Okay. Yes.
Does that mean the NICU surveys are going away?
So eventually in the 22-23 school year, and I want to stress to districts that the department, even though, so family empowerment is being administered by our scholarship funding organization, Step Up for Students. So when McKay does transfer over to FES, you can still expect the department to coordinate with districts on the same things we're doing now. However, it will be under one, basically one payment file, if that makes sense. So now we're Gardner, we have income and diagnosis or IEP. So we have educational options and students for unique abilities. That'll be under one payment file when we add McKay into there too. So you'll have basically one payment file with just more students. Yes.
I'm over here. We're over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll get that. I'll get to you in just a moment.
Good morning. I have a question about transportation.
Okay.
Okay. I'm in a large district and I saw on the slide that it says transportation is provided now. Does that only apply to the transportation if the child is choosing to go to a different district?
I believe so. So, I mean, I'm assuming most districts are providing transportation for the students within their current, the one that they're assigned to. But if you do provide a student, or if a student is transferring to another public school under the FES scholarship, then I believe it would just be for, you know, if they're transferring to one outside of the school that with capacity. So I guess it would be one that they have communicated with the district with on getting into.
Okay, so the capacity still stands within them.
I believe so, and let me not say something that's not correct. That may have not been true. So I don't know that the with capacity is. So so it's not with capacity.
So truly they can
Right.
they are to provide transportation.
Yes, ma'am. And I believe that is, let me make sure I'm saying that right. Yeah, so hold on, let me look at my notes. For some reason, I wanted to say that was. So with the capacity, so I think that was under the Hope Scholarship Program. So that is the one that strictly states with capacity. So as far as FES, it does not state with capacity. Now if something changes in rule or when they actually post statute, I'm not sure on that. I believe so, yes. So over here. Hi. Okay. Say that one more time.
With transportation, does it have to follow the district's school choice plan? They used to say that. We don't provide transportation in schools that are capacity.
I'm not positive, but I can find that out for you. If you want to send me an email, or if you'll let me know your name and contact, we can certainly ask that. We have our implementation team is still working on a lot of like the details and of course rule that may affect some of the changes. So some of these I'm not positive on. I apologize.
Question two, it's our understanding 3518 is going away. It will be 3900.
Yes, so right now, because Gardner went under FES and they're being used as 3,900 and those students have an IEP or diagnosis, I believe when McKay transfers over, those students will fall under FES for unique abilities.
And the last question, do you know when the Gardner list will be available for us to enroll all those students?
So we will just be calling it Family Empowerment, the FES. So you should just have one list. And like I said, it'll mention whether or not the student's enrolled in a private school or a home education program. Or I'm sorry, a private school, and if they're not, then you could assume that the student's using it not at a private school. I don't know when that list will be available. I actually got that question from a district this week and forward that on to our implementation team, and I haven't received a response. I was hoping I would because I thought I would get that question here, but I did not. So I'm hoping that will be made available soon because I know that you guys will have a lot more kids to enroll. So we are aware of that. We're getting some now. Yeah. Yes. So the students will apply through the scholarship funding organizations, whether you are Family Empowerment or Gardner. So that's kind of not really changing. It's just where we do a lot of the administration once those students do apply, we will no longer be doing. Except for, we'll still be, our relationship with districts will not change. So they will, I'm sorry, say that one more time. So we are going to be providing districts with a code if a student, if a student is, so right now you would, if the student is in a private school, you'll use that private school number. If the student is in a home education program or 3 and 4 years of age and eligible, the student, or we'll be providing you guys with a 4-digit transfer code. I know that code's in the works. I'm just not able to share that code because it's not been finalized yet. Right. Yes, ma'am. You'll want to enroll those students into your system so you can report them because they will be paid at, for their tuition and fees at a private school. Okay. No problem. Any other questions? We still have a little bit more time, so feel free.
And this is probably a more basic question. Is there like a public list of just the eligible schools?
Yeah, so we have a directory on FLDOE.org. Not positive on exactly how to tell you how to get to it right now, but I believe if you go to our website, there will be the tabs at the bottom, and one of those will list directory of private schools. And you can also filter that by district too.
For the FES, the district need to provide a matrix, or is that?
So I believe when the student applies through their scholarship funding organization, there is going to be documentation that the student's going to have to provide to their SFO. So they will have to, same thing with so it'll be similar to Gardner, where they will provide, their IEP or their diagnosis. And then now if they request a reevaluation like they do with Gardner, or a reevaluation or a matrix update or something like that. That will be something the districts will have to do for family empowerment, but it will be set up similar to how Gardner works right now. Did I answer your question? Okay. Any other questions?
Any other questions or hands that I missed?
And feel free to email us. I know we may not have been able to answer all of your questions. So feel free to email us because hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we'll have some more information and we'll be sending out hopefully another district newsletter. We did send one out at the beginning of June and I'm sorry, we ran out. I did provide some of those printouts just in case you did miss that district newsletter. And again, you can email me if you want it. But we'll be periodically sending those out just to update you guys on any changes. Yes, thank you guys. And I'm sure we can stick around if you have some things you want to talk about. All right, thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna let them do this. Hi. Yeah.
Questions that aren't really. Let me grab my stuff and I'll come down.
Hey, how are you?
You got that one. You got that one.
Yeah.